Hello, beautiful ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna include the gentlemen this time because in my last video, a few gentlemen commented, so you're all welcome. I'm so happy to see you here. I'm Aurelia and I'm the founder of Mademoiselle Diaries, a platform to help women become the most beautiful, elegant, and feminine self. So last video, we spoke about this calling that we have as humans to be image bearers of God, and that one of God's characteristics is actually creator. So we are also called to be creatives and to create things. And when we're not operating out of that creative mode, we're usually pretty unfulfilled and we feel it even in ourselves. I mentioned that there are two zones that we live in. There's the creative zone, and if we're not creating, we're either in survival mode or we're in consumption mode, which is a mode that I feel like a lot of people find themselves in, especially today. Now, before we get into this, I had a lot of comments of you ladies who wanted to learn about my creative practices, how to remove those creative blocks, and we just wrapped up a whole program inside Mademoiselle Society. It's called Artist Within. It is 4 weeks. You simply need to join Mademoiselle Society and you have access to all of it. I believe that if you're creatively blocked, the Artist Within will really help you remove some of the limiting beliefs that you placed in yourself, and also give you practical tools on like how to go about your creative project. Okay, I mentioned that there's two modes that we live in and how a lot of us, we tend to stay in this consumption and survival mode, even though we're not actually in survival mode and there's no bear chasing us. We still act like we're in survival mode because we are not creating. And I just want to get you out of that mode in this video, and I really hope that I will succeed in doing so. Something that God has really been convicting me the last 2 years is just my consumption habits. If you know me, I love books, I love podcasts, I am an avid reader, learner. I love consuming things, and I always seen it as a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to learn things, and it's great to have access to so much information, especially, in 2026, we have access to so much information. It can be both a blessing and a curse. I didn't see it as a problem for the longest time. And I just remember this one moment. I was actually watching, I wasn't sure if I was going to share this, but here it is. I was just scrolling through Reels or whatever, watching a video, a YouTube video. I think it was like a podcast, like a Christian podcast. And I was falling asleep. I was in that, half falling asleep state. So I was kind of dreaming, but I was still kind of awake, that state. And I just felt such a strong, tugging in my heart, almost like God telling me, Aurelia, you're consuming so much content about me. You do not know me personally. At that moment, I dropped my phone. I got so scared. I was like, oh my goodness, that is true. I'm reading so much about him. I'm watching so much about him, always learning from other people's experiences, but never fully experiencing him myself. And that moment changed everything for me. Initially, I would literally spend all day consuming, getting ready. I would have a podcast in the background. When I was commuting, I would read a book. And in between waiting times, I would grab my phone, check my social media, check other people's stories. It was consuming me. It was actually, my consumption was consuming me. And I didn't have a direct relationship with God where I can really feel what He wants me to do. And that is a very major thing when it comes to our creativity, is actually hearing His voice. The more you're able to hear Him, the more you're able to see from Him what He wants you to create. Like, Aurelia, create this. Aurelia, do that, do this. How can you hear Him if you're constantly being bombarded with all of the noise of the world? And I think it's so hidden, right? And I feel like this is how the enemy sometimes works. It's like, it looks productive. It looks like it's a good thing for you when you're consuming so much content. And even, I know you're watching this YouTube video. After this, I want you to stop. I want you to stop and actually start executing, start creating. But the enemy will do this a lot. It will trick you into thinking that you're doing something super productive. You're actually being so blocked from actually hearing from God directly and from creating, from fulfilling that purpose as an image bearer of God. As you guys know, inside Mademoiselle Society, we have been reading The Artist Way. I'm, of course, always going to talk about this book, and I know you're tired of me because every video I've been talking about this book, but I just love how in sync we all are. Like in my last video, all of the comments were like, oh my gosh, I had The Artist Way in my shelf for the longest time, or people have been talking about it nonstop. This is your sign, okay? This is your sign to start. But in one of the weeks, I believe it was in week 4, Julie Cameron tells us to go through this thing called the Reading Deprivation Week. When I read that, oh my gosh, my heart just stopped. Okay, I'm acting quite dramatic, but I read that. I was like, okay, so I'm not able to read any book for a week. No YouTube, no podcast, no, what else did she say? No gossiping, no social media scrolling for a whole week. And that honestly scared me, and I went through it because I knew that I desperately needed it. The first 2 days, I felt like I was going through some sort of withdrawal. Like the closest thing that I would compare it to was when I first quit smoking and I experienced nicotine withdrawal. I felt the same way with dopamine, with that instant access to consumption, the stories, the reels, the YouTube, the podcast. After those 2 days passed, I quickly fell into this mode. Like my default was creation. So usually after work, I would kind of unwind, put my Gilmore Girls show or watch a YouTube, whatever it is. That was kind of how I unwinded, and I thought it was normal. I don't think it's a big harm. I don't think it's evil if you do this, but it is true that a lot of my unwinding time was actually just consumption. I was not creating at all. And I realized throughout that week, like, oh my God, I took on so many new creative projects and things that I would never do otherwise because I suddenly had so much time. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you do not need to quit your job instantly. Simply change with what you have right now. Like, how can you lead a more creative life with what you have right now? You know, there's so many things that you can already do right now to lead a more creative life. So if you're working a 9 to 5 and you feel like, oh my gosh, this is not creatively fulfilling, because I've received some comments like that, what can you do in your unwinding time to lead more from that creative zone? Perhaps you can burn a playlist into a CD. That's what I did during my media deprivation week. Or what else did I do? I wrote a lot. I rearranged my room. I decorated this room. There's so many things that you can do. It does not matter if it's, you know, something small like literally rearranging your room or cleaning out your closet, but at least you're functioning from that creative mode. You need to start little. It doesn't have to be something drastic like, okay, I want to be creative, so let me try to be like Picasso immediately, or let me start a business. Like, don't set that crazy expectation right away because it will be intimidating for you. I want you to realize that leading from your creative mode is actually in the very little things. It's choosing, for example, to unwind with a puzzle as opposed to scrolling on Instagram, on TikTok. All of these small habits literally add up. It will really, I can't speak. It will really, really add up. Well, okay, it's started raining and the lighting is not as good, but oh well. At least it's cozy, okay? Pretend that it's raining there as well. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, whatever it is. My challenge for you is actually to go through that reading deprivation week yourself. I'm not even gonna tell you what you will learn, but just commit to it. Don't say, I'm gonna start in 2 weeks, I'm gonna start in 3 weeks. No, start literally tomorrow if you can, because your brain will always try to find ways to escape it. Just try, and you'll be so surprised what you'll find in that silence. God speaks in that silence, and you need to leave room and make room for Him to speak to you directly. It is important to have those times where you literally do nothing, where you're literally sitting in your living room for 20 minutes and you're just staring out in the garden and, you know, being in that receiving mode. You realize that a big part of being a creative person is actually opening up yourself to God as a vessel. Like, God, I'm ready to receive from you. What are you wanting to express to the world through me? That is the essence of creativity, is opening up yourself to God. Like, God, speak to me. That is just how simple it is. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be so grand and difficult, but it really starts in the small habits that we do in our day to day. So go through that media deprivation week, come back next week, let me know how it goes. That's literally how J.K. Rowling found her entire plot for Harry Potter. It's in her train ride from Manchester to London, and she wasn't there with her phone scrolling on TikTok. Instead, she was just looking outside the window, and suddenly she received all of these downloads. Or Newton, who was literally sitting under the tree. Suddenly an apple falls and he's like, oh, that's gravity. Like, you would miss out on these moments if you're constantly glued to your phone. I really want to encourage a lot of you to just stop checking your phone constantly as soon as there's waiting time. When you leave work, how about you just walk outside and actually just look at the people around you as opposed to checking your phone right away? Like, why is this such a habit? Before you leave, let me leave you with this prayer from this book, obviously, The Artist's Way. O great Creator, we are gathered together in your name, that we may be of greater service to you and to our fellows. We offer ourselves to you as instruments. We open ourselves to your creativity in our lives. We surrender to you our old ideas. We welcome your new and more expansive ideas. We trust that you will lead us. We trust that it is safe to follow you. We know you created us and that creativity is your nature and our own. We ask you to unfold our lives according to your plan, not our low self-worth. Help us believe that it is not too late and that we are not too small or too flawed to be healed by you and through each other and made whole. Help us to love one another, to nurture each other's unfolding, to encourage each other's growth and understand each other's fears. Help us to know that we are not alone, that we are loved and lovable. Help us to create as an act of worship to you. Amen, amen, amen. Just go through that media deprivation week. I know that it will be super helpful in your creative recovery. It is safe to create. I will leave you with that. It is safe to create. Say it to yourself over and over again. It is safe to create, and I'm going to make space for God to speak to me. So let him speak to you. All right. Bye-bye. Mwah.